One of the most important things in a game is something called a game object. A game object is an object within a game. In fact, if a game had no game objects, then it would just be an expanse of nothingness. It would basically just be a black screen. This is why game objects are so important. Without them, Minecraft would just be a black screen. Call of Duty would just be a black screen. Fortnite would just be a black screen. That is why game objects are really important in a game. So, in today's episode of the Unity Masterclass, we will learn how to summon some game objects and how to navigate around the scene view. Intro suggests, game objects are very important in a game. So anyways guys, welcome back to episode 2 of the Unity Masterclass. So, we have loaded back into our project right here, and before we start out with anything, we are going to go over some navigation and scene movement. So, moving around the scene. So, I'm just going to summon a quick cube here. So, for starters, if we right click and hold, you see a little icon turns into a little eyeball. You will be able to look around the scene without the camera moving. It's just rotating. So you can look up, down, look at the cube. If we hold Alt and left click, we can move around a pivot. In this case, the pivot is the square. If you don't know what a pivot is, it's basically just something that the camera will move around or look around. Middle click, if you hold middle click and just middle click, we can pan. Now, if we go all the way up here, this is our toolbar. If we go to the hand icon, select that, then we can also pan. So that's another way to do it. Anyway, let's get on to actually creating a game object. We'll delete that one. Okay, so, also I forgot, if we look up here in the top right here, we can see if we press this, we can look down, sideways. We can click these. We can look from the bottom. So yeah. That's also a good way of looking, I guess. So, as I said before, this is the hierarchy. We only have a main camera and a directional light. And they are both game objects. So if we click play up here, which is just up here, then we will see that we can actually play our game because we have a camera with a camera component. Now components, let me exit out of that. Components are basically like, they are added to game objects to make them do stuff. So, like, there's a transform here, meaning we can move it, rotate it, and expand it. In this case, we probably shouldn't expand the camera because there's no use for it. So, back to creating a game object. So, we can go up all the way up here, click game object, 3D object, and click cube, or whatever you want. You can basically summon anything. You can summon a cylinder. And of course, you can hit delete. Oh wait, you gotta click off of it. Then in the hierarchy, we can see it, click it, and we can press delete. Same with the cube. But also another good way to do that right click in the hierarchy, and you also see this. We're gonna stick to 3D objects for now. So let's summon our cube. If we want to focus directly on the cube, let's say like our pivot is on somewhere else, if we just hit the F key on our keyboard, then it will zoom to the cube or whatever you have selected. So the main camera, if you press, okay, wait, if you click directional light, and see, makes that the new pivot. So let's zoom back on this. And this is a cube, a game object. So, we can do a lot of things. If we go into the toolbar, we can rotate it. Or in the transform, in the inspector, which is just over here, we can also rotate it, change the value to a specific number, or we can just slide it along. And of course, we can press undo to undo changes. So that's just Control Z, and Control Y is redo. So Control Y, like that. That's simple and easy for me. Easy or simple or helpful. That's the word for mistakes made. So if we go, we can also change the position. Oh, whoa. Okay, that was not a good example. If you go back up here into the toolbar, click these, then you should see like arrows pointing out of the middle of the shape. So if we just grab one and drag it, you will be able to move it wherever you want. And you can, if you hold Control, you can move it, you can snap it. So moving it at increments at a time. So yeah, we can, this right here, up here in the toolbar, this is the rotate tool. We've already gone over that one. The one next to that, that is the scale tool. That basically means we can scale it bigger, smaller, in any direction we want. Just like that. Yep. And if we actually, grab this middle square here, we can drag it and it will expand in the X, Y, and Z axes. So yeah, just undo that for now. So let's say I want to make like a little floor. So we might want to make it a bit thinner. Also, you can use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Forgot to mention that. But we can, like, let's say, we can drag it up, out, like that. Then there we go. Now we have a little floor for our game. So if we hit play again, we see it appears not quite doing anything yet. That might require just a little bit of coding. So if we head over to the next one right here, that's the rect tool. Now this is mainly used for UI, which is user interface, but it can also be used for this. Like for example, you can expand it without like expanding it on both sides. You can expand it upwards. If I can get the right angle at it. There we go. Get it from the side, you can expand it upwards. And if you go into this middle circle, you can even just move it wherever you want. But this is again mainly used for UI, user interface. We will be going over that later in this series. And finally, this one, it's basically just all the tools in one tool. So we can move it, we can rotate it, and we can expand it. I'm just gonna undo those changes though. So yeah, that is how you can create game objects, and they will appear in the hierarchy. Every single one will appear. Besides, if you use code, then you can like not make it do that, but let's go over the inspector. So right here, if we click on the cube in the hierarchy or in our game or scene view, let's go back to the move tool. We can do a lot of things. We can tag it. Again, we'll go over that later. And we can also set it as a layer. I don't recommend foiling with that now, but definitely we'll go over it within the series. So up here we have a little search, or not a search, but you can type in the name of the cube or whatever you summon. So we can just type in the cube, and if you just left click again, it will change in the hierarchy. You can also press F2 and you can also change it like that. So yeah. Well, let's name this something relative. That's what I like to do. I'm gonna call it floor. So we'll left click again and it will change. So the cube, the mesh filter is basically what makes a cube a cube. The mesh renderer, you might see there's a little checkbox. That is basically meaning setting it active or not. So if it's active, you can see it. If it's not active, you can't. So if we up here, if we click it here, now it's inactive. You cannot collide with it. You can't see it. And if we click it again, you will be able to see it. And the mesh renderer, basically, if we untick that, you can't see it in the game view, even though you can see it here. Those are just the boundaries of the collider. So you will still be able to collide with it, but you can't see it. So let's turn that back on. We want to see our lovely floor, and this is a box collider. Now there are many, there are many different types of colliders. If we click down here at add component, there's a search engine, or you could just look in what category there is. In this case, colliders would be in physics. Yep. Box collider, capsule collider, character controller. But yeah, you can just in the search engine, just type collider. And yeah. But we don't want to add anything. So this is a box collider. If we untick that, then everything will be able to move through it. Everything. If we hit, so yeah, let's add that back on. And the is trigger thing right here, we will get onto that later in the series. So let's expand this. So just basically get used to like moving stuff around. Always don't forget to play test your thing. So you can also move stuff while you're in the game view. So if you hit play and then you can see your mouse is still there, click up back into the scene view, we'll be able to edit our thing. So where's the camera? The camera's right there. Let's move it along this way. And you see, it will move. So yeah, what axis is this? I think this is the Z. No, it's the X. Okay. So I like that. So if we then stop playing, you will see that it doesn't save changes. So let's just to like test basically. Now I've taken the X axis and I've copied it, so I can just move it back. That's a good way of moving your things to where they want to be, or where you want them to be. Now it's more in the center. I would also like the camera. You can see a preview of the camera right here, so we don't need to hit play every time. We can move it and the camera will move. So maybe a little down and right there. That right there looks good. So as you can see, the cube, it doesn't look that pretty right now. As you can see down here in the inspector, there's a default material, which is just white, or I guess gray. So we will get into materials. They are called and texturing in the next episode. We also have this light source here. If we deleted that, you will see everything looks horrible. It doesn't look good. So we really want a light. So we can also change the color of the light in this light component. Change it to a bit blue, and then as you can see, everything will be blue. But I think I like it just like that. So, let's summon in another game object. Let's summon in another cube. And then, what Y position is this at? Okay, let's set this to 0. And then let's just 0 out the position. So, 0, 0, 0 in the coordinates. And then we can make a little crate. Let's put a little crate here. Again, like, de-size it a bit. We can put like little, yeah, there we go. We can move it up a little bit. And we can see we've made a crate. We can also rename it up here, crate. Now right now it doesn't look like much. The player might be confused, like, is it the player? Is it just a random cube? Or is it a crate? No one knows. So we definitely will go into materials next episode. Also, one last thing. In the hierarchy, we can parent objects. Parent is basically a way in Unity to say that saying that like an object is connected to another. Well, not connected, but like here, I'll show you with an example. If we take this crate, a game object, and we drag it, we can drag it into the floor. Game object, right there. So now you can see a little arrow has popped up. And if we then click on the floor, you can see that we can move them both at the same time. This is just useful. Like, you can either use it to move game objects at the same time, or you can also use them as folders. Yes, but just saying, you can't, because you can't put game objects in the project, or yeah. So you can, and also you can just drag them. You can basically drag them wherever you would like. And oh, we can see that look, it's moved up a bit. You can move the camera up a bit. Let's also move this crate close to the camera. There we go. So, just like that, we have learned how to move around the scene, or look around, pan around the scene, yes. We have summoned in some game object, talked a little bit about components. We will talk about more of them later in the series. And we've learned about parenting objects. So, I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode of the Unity Masterclass. Leave a like and subscribe if you learned something about Unity. And I will see you all in the next episode. Also, one more thing. Always forget to save. Control S is save, or you can click File, Save, just like that. Then you can just X out your project. I think I'm going to leave it open. You can leave it open, or you can exit out. It doesn't really matter. Anyways, I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.